Day 11 was another long day on the road, covering miles of remote wilderness with a mix of beauty and quiet reflection. The day began with more of the breathtaking scenery we'd come to expect: towering mountains, wide open valleys, and glacial rivers winding through the rugged landscape. At lunch, we met Ron, a guy who made our trip feel like a quick weekend getaway. He was 30-some odd days into riding his bicycle down from Prudhoe Bay, 1,200 miles to the north, and was on his way to Seattle, where he'd catch a train to Chicago, and then keep riding all the way to Pennsylvania. I can't even imagine the solitude Ron must have felt, riding alone for weeks, camping wherever, out in the middle of absolute nowhere, just him, his bike, and the kind of silence that makes you question every life decision that led you there. After lunch, the mood shifted. We rode through a stretch of landscape where a forest fire had swept through within the last several years. Over 15 miles of charred, lifeless forest. Blackened tree trunks stood like ghosts of what once was, stretching endlessly on both sides of the road. No leaves, no undergrowth, just a vast, eerie reminder of nature's power and destruction. As we pressed on, the scenery slowly came back to life. The mountains returned, the rivers reappeared, and the road led us toward Tatogga, which was a peaceful end to a challenging day. Surrounded by the quiet calm of the wilderness, the Tatogga resort was the perfect place to pause and take it all in. Day 11 was a reminder of the delicate balance between beauty and destruction in the wild. It was a day that left its mark, one that we wouldn't forget anytime soon. Day 12. Before we get into the ride, I've got to admit, I made a bit of a mistake. For the next 3 days, I had my 360 camera on the wrong setting, which means most of the footage came out super dark. I've done what I can to clean it up, but you'll definitely notice a difference. I'm honestly bummed about it. After everything we've seen, not being able to fully share it the way I wanted is frustrating. Now on to the ride. From Tatogga to Prince George. This stretch marked a turning point in the trip for me. It was the first day where I really started to feel the grind. The fatigue hit harder, the miles felt longer, my butt was sore faster than usual, like it just gave up as soon as I sat on the seat. About every 30 minutes I had to stand up on my pegs just to get some feeling back. And of course, Kevin being Kevin, would yell whack-a-mole over the Cardo comms every time he caught me standing, just to make sure everyone knew. It added some much-needed humor to the otherwise grinding miles. The thought of 7 more days of this honestly felt pretty daunting. As much as I loved the adventure, the idea of another week of long days, sore muscles, and the constant packing and unpacking was overwhelming at times. And I could tell I wasn't the only one feeling it. Some of the other guys were starting to show signs of wear too. Tempers flared a little quicker. Little things that wouldn't have mattered back at the start of the trip now seemed to get under people's skin just a bit more. But honestly, with 5 guys traveling together for nearly 2 weeks straight, riding hard every day, it was bound to happen. It's just part of the experience. Gradually, signs of life started popping up. Small towns, scattered farms, and the occasional logging truck barreling down the highway. Prince George didn't exactly lift the fatigue off my shoulders, but it felt like a checkpoint, a reminder that no matter how tough the day was, we were still moving forward, and sometimes that's enough to keep the wheels turning. Day 13 took us from Prince George to Revelstoke, and what a ride it was. This stretch of the journey delivered some of the most stunning scenery we'd seen since Alaska. The farther south we went, the more the landscape transformed. Jagged mountain peaks, deep river valleys, and thick forests wrapped around every curve of the road. It felt like we were riding straight into a postcard. This part of British Columbia has a rhythm to it. Long sweeping turns through alpine passes, lakes reflecting the sky, and the kind of quiet that makes you want to ride with your visor up just to take it all in. Was constant, mile after mile, and after the long, remote stretches of the north, it felt like a reward. Here's a shot of Jeff doing what I can only describe as the motorcycle zoomies. You know how a dog will randomly sprint around your yard like its tail's on fire? That's Jeff on a motorcycle. Out of nowhere, he just launched, blasting ahead of our already fast pace. We'd casually roll up on him 10 minutes later like nothing happened. He did this probably twice a day. Says it's to help him stay awake. Whatever the reason, it was always entertaining and a little impressive, honestly. We rolled into Revelstoke at a decent time for once, which gave us the rare chance to casually cruise around town and really take it in. It's a laid-back mountain town with cool old buildings, cozy cafes, and those massive peaks looming in the background. It was the perfect way to wind down after another epic day on the road. Day 14 took us from Revelstoke to Cardston, a long haul but packed with some incredible sights along the way. Leaving Revelstoke, the scenery stayed absolutely stunning. The roads wound through deep valleys, past rivers and mountain peaks that looked almost too perfect to be real. It was the kind of morning ride you could lose yourself in. Crisp air, endless greenery, and a road that just kept getting better the farther you went. major highlights of the day was our stop in Banff. After so many days of hammering out miles, it felt good to slow down and do something a little touristy for once. We took the gondola ride up to the top of Sulphur Mountain, and the views were absolutely unreal. An ocean of mountain peaks stretching as far as you could see. It was the kind of sight that makes you feel really small in the best possible way. After soaking it all in and grabbing a few pictures to prove we were actually tourists for a few hours, we got back on the bikes and continued east. The terrain started to flatten out the closer we got to Cardston. The jagged mountains gave way to rolling hills and wide open spaces. You could tell we were getting close to the edge of the Rockies. After a long day in the saddle, rolling into Cardston felt like another checkpoint crossed off, and a reminder that even though we were technically headed home, the adventure was far from over. Day 15 took us from Cardston to Lewiston, Idaho, and this was a day that really reminded us why we do trips like this. Early on, we rode through Glacier National Park, and honestly, epic doesn't even begin to describe it. Towering mountains, deep valleys, and that famous going to the sun road winding its way up over the peaks, it was absolutely breathtaking. Every corner was another view that made you just want to stop the bike and stare. And honestly, we did a lot. We pulled over so many times to soak it all in, to take pictures, or just stand there quietly, amazed at what we were seeing. I had actually been to Glacier once before, back when I was about 15 on a family trip, but I definitely don't remember it like this. Then again, it's a little different when you're riding through it on a motorcycle, completely open to the elements instead of being crammed into a mid-80s minivan. The scale of it all just hits different when you're out in it. soaking in the beauty of Glacier, we pointed the bikes west instead of heading straight home. Jeff had a mission. He wanted to ride in Oregon and Washington, 2 states he hadn't checked off yet. So we added 300-some extra miles to the day. There was a little bit of grumbling, but nothing serious. In the end, it was an easy call. You look out for your buddies, and when you're already thousands of miles from home, what's a few hundred more? As we worked our way south, the sharp peaks of Glacier slowly faded behind us, replaced by open valleys and long stretches of empty road. It felt like the landscape was opening up just as the trip was starting to wind down. It was a long day, but a meaningful one. One of those rides when you can feel the weight of the miles and the memories stacking up. We were entering the last few days of the trip, but the adventure still had more to give.